My name is Lisa Moses. I'm 27 years old, and for a long time, I truly believed I was going to marry the man I loved. Not because of fate or fairy tales, just because everything between us felt steady, real, and earned. I had been with Ethan Carter, 29, for a little over 3 years, and up until recently, I thought I understood him better than anyone else did. 3 years is long enough to see someone through their good days, their messy days, and the in between spaces you don't show the world. And for most of that time, Ethan made me feel safe. He was charming without trying, warm without being clingy, and he had that soft, boyish laugh that made people instantly relax around him. Maybe that's why I fell so hard. Everyone liked Ethan, everyone trusted Ethan, and so did I. So when I started planning to propose, it felt natural, like the next step after countless late-night car rides, quiet dinners, shared secrets, and half-serious conversations about the future. Ethan once said, "If we ever get married, I'd want something unforgettable." He laughed when he said it, but I took it seriously. Maybe too seriously. I spent 2 months searching for the perfect spot. Not the generic Instagram cute kind, something that felt like us. A lakeside resort with private cabins, warm lights spilling from lanterns at night, and a quiet pier that glowed gold at sunset. I wanted the moment to feel soft, intimate, and honest. No audience, no pressure. Just him knowing how much I loved him. The ring took even longer. Ethan wasn't flashy. He liked simple things: crisp white shirts, old jazz, playlists, black coffee. So when he told me once offhandedly that he preferred a clean, modest band over anything ornate, I memorized it. I walked into jewelry shops until I found a handcrafted platinum band with a subtle beveled edge, something that felt timeless but thoughtful. Something that said, "I know who you are." Before the trip, I showed the ring to my mom. She covered her mouth and whispered, "Oh, Lisa, it's beautiful. He's going to be so happy." My dad, on the other hand, gave me the classic dad response. "You sure about this?" Marriage isn't just sunsets, kiddo. But he smiled afterward, that quiet, proud smile he gets when he's trying not to be sentimental. The proposal itself unfolded like a scene I'd replayed in my head 100 times. The lake shimmered in soft light, the air smelled like pine and warm earth, and the fairy lights I'd set up flickered like tiny stars. My hands were shaking when I asked him to come down to the pier with me. "Lisa, what's all this?" He laughed, looking genuinely surprised. My heart almost burst. I told him everything, why I loved him, why he mattered, why I couldn't imagine my future without him. When I finally pulled out the ring and asked, "Will you marry me?" Ethan looked at me like I had handed him the universe. His eyes actually glossed with tears. "Yes," he breathed. "Of course, yes." He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't performing. He was just happy. And for a moment, I thought everything was perfect. But right after the moment passed, when we were walking back to the cabin, he said something small, something that didn't feel right. He laughed and nudged my shoulder lightly. "Wow, guess I really do have you wrapped around my finger, huh?" He said it casually, teasingly, like a joke. But the way he smirked, the way his eyes lingered just a bit too long as if he was enjoying the idea of it, it made something inside me tighten. I brushed it off, told myself he was just nervous, overwhelmed, excited. People say weird things when emotions run high. But every now and then, when he thought I wasn't looking, I saw a flicker across his face, something between pride and gloating, like he finally had proof of something. At the time, I couldn't explain it. But now looking back, I know that moment, small and harmless as it seemed, was the first tiny crack. The first sign that maybe the man I thought I knew wasn't the man he wanted the world to believe he was. The first few weeks after the proposal felt like a dream, at least on the surface. Ethan was thrilled. He kept staring at the ring on his finger like it was the coolest thing he'd ever owned. He showed it to cashiers, baristas, even the guy who serviced his car. At first it was cute, sweet even, but then something shifted. He started enjoying the attention a little too much. At dinners with his friends, he'd lift his hand dramatically and say, "Look at this. Lisa proposed to me. I mean, how could she not, right?" A few chuckles, a few awkward glances. I tried to laugh it off, but each time something in the room tightened. Like everyone sensed a line had been crossed, even when I pretended not to. And the jokes, God, the jokes. Before, Ethan's humor was warm little playful nudges inside jokes only we understood. But after the engagement, the tone changed. His jokes became sharper, almost performative. One night, at a small gathering, someone asked if we'd picked a date. Ethan shrugged and said loud enough for the whole table, "Whenever Lisa tells me I'm allowed to." You know how she is. She's got me trained pretty well.
Trained. Everyone paused for half a second. His friend Mason cleared his throat. Dude.
What?
Ethan just grinned, wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and kissed the top of my head. Kidding. Lighten up. But I felt my smile freeze, my stomach twist. Something ugly spread through my chest.
Later that night, when we were washing dishes in his apartment, I said gently, "Those jokes you've been making, they don't really feel good."
He didn't look up from the plate he was rinsing. Lisa. Babe, you're too sensitive. They're jokes. Relax. It wasn't what he said. It was the way he said it, dismissive, patronizing, like I had bothered him with an inconvenience. Still, I swallowed the hurt. Told myself it was stress or nerves or something temporary. But then the comments escalated.
At his parents' house for Sunday dinner, his mom asked if we needed help with wedding planning. Ethan snorted and said, "Lisa's got it all figured out already. She basically just tells me where to stand."
His dad actually frowned. His mom gave a nervous, shaky laugh. I sat there, cheeks burning, hands trembling under the table. When Ethan noticed my expression, he gave my thigh a light pat and whispered, "It's a joke. Don't be dramatic." I wanted to push him away, but everyone was watching. So I stayed silent, smiled tight, pretended everything was fine. But it was getting harder to pretend when even friends started noticing. At a casual Friday night hangout, Ethan leaned back in his chair, wrapped his arm around me, and said with a grin, "She's obsessed with me, you know. Lucky for her, I am who I am." The girls at the table exchanged looks. His best friend quietly winced. Someone muttered, "Dude, what's your problem?" Ethan ignored it. He was riding the high. The attention, the jokes, the way people looked at him when he played the confident fiancé. And I was becoming the punchline.
Every joke chipped away at something inside me slowly, quietly, and deeply. But the worst part was the shift I saw behind his eyes.
Before the proposal, Ethan's confidence was gentle, something natural. But now it felt like he needed to prove something, like he needed to show the world he was wanted, adored, chosen. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at himself in a mirror after an event, smirking a little, fixing his hair like he was replaying all the attention he'd gotten that night. And sometimes when he thought I wasn't paying attention, I saw him scrolling through old photos of himself with his ex-girlfriend, Jenna Rowe. He always locked his phone the second I came near. Always. I told myself it meant nothing. That everyone occasionally looks back on old memories. That he just didn't want to talk about her. But deep down, something was rotting. Gently, quietly, undeniably. Then came the night he crossed a line he couldn't pull back from. We were at a rooftop bar with his coworkers celebrating a project launch. The city lights were gorgeous, the wind warm, the music low. It should have been a perfect night. Instead, as people congratulated him, Ethan raised his glass and said loud enough for the group, "Honestly, guys, Lisa's lucky I said yes. A catch like me doesn't come around twice." Laughter, some polite, some uncomfortable. My heart sank, because in his eyes, I suddenly wasn't his partner. I was his prop, a background character in the story he wanted to tell. And for the first time, I felt something cold settle in my chest, something I didn't want to name yet. A warning. A whisper that the man I thought I loved was slipping into someone I didn't recognize. Someone who enjoyed performing more than loving. And the performance was only getting worse. By the time Ethan's family invited us on their annual camping trip, I was clinging to hope the way a drowning person clings to driftwood. I kept telling myself maybe leaving the city, escaping the noise, the eyes, the attention he constantly fed on, might help us reset. Nature heals people, right? At least that's what I naively thought. The first day was peaceful. Ethan helped his dad set up the tents. I helped his mom prep dinner, and everything felt normal. Almost like the man I fell in love with was resurfacing. We sat around the fire that evening, his parents, his younger sister, 2 cousins, and my parents who had joined the trip for the first time. It felt warm, simple, and safe. Then Ethan opened his mouth. We were roasting marshmallows, trading harmless stories, when one of his cousins jokingly asked how the proposal went down. Ethan smirked, leaned back in his camping chair, and said, "Well, it was cute. Lisa practically cried her eyes out while proposing. I mean, who wouldn't? I'm quite a prize." A couple awkward laughs, I forced a smile. But he wasn't done. He poked the fire with a stick, glanced up with that same smug half-smile he'd been wearing lately, and said, "Though honestly, I'm still shocked she forgave me after what happened before the proposal." My heart stopped. All noise vanished. I felt every pair of eyes shift toward him. My mom's face tightened. My dad's hand froze around his coffee cup. I managed barely to ask, "What are you talking about?" Ethan shrugged casually. "You know, when I Messed around. A few days before the trip. He flashed a grin. Pretty wild night. The entire campsite went silent. His sister whispered horrified Ethan what? I stared at him, confused, stunned, choking on air. What do you mean, Ethan? Are you saying you cheated? My voice trembled, cracked. He smirked deeper. Come on, babe. You don't remember. It was pretty unforgettable. My mother gasped. His father muttered, Enough, Ethan. My dad's jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind.
Ethan looked around at everyone's horrified expressions and then burst out laughing.
Oh my God, you should all see your faces. Relax. It was a joke. You're all so uptight.
A joke!
A joke. He thought publicly announcing infidelity, fictional or not, in front of both our families was funny.
My mom immediately stood and walked to her tent. My dad shook his head in disbelief. His mother quietly said, Ethan, why would you say something like that?
He just rolled his eyes. Oh, for God's sake, it's not a big deal. I sat frozen, my skin buzzing like it wasn't mine, my throat too tight to speak. I suddenly felt outside my own body, looking down at a girl who had been made a fool of in front of everyone she loved. The fire crackled. Someone shifted. Someone else coughed. But nobody, not one person, laughed. I finally whispered, barely audible, Why would you say that?
Ethan leaned over, tapped my knee lightly, and said with a tone that sliced right through me, Because you're adorable when you're flustered. Don't be so dramatic.
My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and something deep inside me cracked open.
That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside the tent made me flinch. Every memory of Ethan's words replayed like a nightmare. My mother's pale, devastated face. My father's disappointment. His family's discomfort. My own humiliation. It wrapped around me like fog I couldn't escape. I kept staring at Ethan lying next to me perfectly asleep, completely unbothered. His breathing was steady, peaceful, like nothing had happened. Like my pain wasn't real or important or even noticeable.
Around 3 a.m., I slid out of the sleeping bag and walked outside. The air was cold enough to sting my cheeks. I stared at the embers of the dying campfire, feeling the warmth fade slowly, just like everything inside me. I didn't cry, not one tear. My shock was too deep for tears. When morning came, Ethan acted normal, cheerful even. He made jokes at breakfast, teased his sister, and chatted with my parents like nothing had happened. But they avoided him, speaking in clipped responses, their faces stern and tight. When we packed up to leave, I didn't touch him. I didn't speak to him. I think part of him noticed. But he didn't apologize, not once. On the drive home, he glanced at me and said, You were really quiet today. Are you mad about the joke?
I stared at the road ahead. It wasn't a joke.
He scoffed. You're so sensitive. Seriously, Lisa, you need to lighten up. Everyone knew I wasn't being serious. I turned and looked at him fully. Except they didn't. And you knew exactly what you were doing. He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. I don't want to talk. He threw his hands up. Fine, be moody. But he didn't realize it wasn't moodiness. It was clarity, and the beginning of the end. Because on that long, silent drive home, I realized something terrifying. Ethan didn't slip up. He didn't make a mistake. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed the shock, the attention, the spectacle. And for the first time, I understood that the man I loved was gone, replaced by someone who cared more about the performance than the person beside him. The worst part, he wasn't finished yet. Not even close. The drive back from the campsite felt like a funeral procession, quiet, heavy, suffocating. Ethan hummed along to the radio like nothing had happened, tapping the steering wheel with the same fingers that had gestured casually when he accused himself of cheating as a joke. When we finally arrived at his apartment, he tossed his duffel bag on the couch, kicked off his shoes, and said, God, I need a shower. Want to order Thai later? Thai just like that. As if he hadn't detonated the core of my life 24 hours earlier. He headed toward the bathroom, but before he could close the door, I said quietly, Ethan, we need to talk. He groaned. Actually groaned. Lisa, seriously? Again with this. I kept my voice steady. You humiliated me. In front of my family. Yours. Everyone. He crossed his arms, leaning casually against the doorframe like this was a mild inconvenience. It was a joke. You're blowing it out of proportion. You said you cheated, but I didn't. You said you messed around right before the proposal. You know I didn't. He said it all with this unbearable confidence, like he knew his denial was enough. Like the mere idea of holding him accountable was laughable. I stared at him, feeling something cold wrap around my bones. He didn't feel guilty. He wasn't confused. He wasn't even defensive. He was bored. I can't do this, I whispered. He smirked. Do what? This version of you. The one who's cruel just so people will laugh. Ethan rolled his eyes hard enough to look dizzy. Oh my God, Lisa, you're being dramatic again. Why can't you just enjoy life without taking everything so seriously? And there it was, dismissal wrapped in arrogance. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't shake. Instead, I walked past him, picked up the small velvet ring box from the table, the box that once held my hope, my effort, my promise, and I slipped his ring inside. Ethan watched me confused. What are you doing? I closed the box gently like I was tucking away the last piece of my illusions and met his eyes. I'm taking back the ring. He scoffed. Actually, scoffed. That's ridiculous, Lisa. I'm wearing it, obviously. It's mine. No, I said softly. It was a symbol of our engagement. And since the engagement is over, the symbol comes back to me. His expression finally shifted a crack, a flicker, a glitch in the arrogance. Are you breaking off the engagement? He laughed nervously. Over a joke. You didn't cheat. I paused. But you wanted the reaction. You wanted people to think you might have. You wanted the shock, not the truth. He stepped closer. Lisa, you're not thinking clearly. You're just emotional. No, I said calmly. I've never been clearer. He sneered slightly. So what, you're leaving me? I'm leaving who you've become. He threw his hands up. Whatever. You'll calm down and come back. I picked up my bag. No, I won't. Walking out that door was the moment the air outside felt like oxygen again. I drove straight to my best friend Mia's apartment. She opened the door in pajama shorts, holding a bowl of cereal, and froze when she saw my face. Lisa, what happened? I didn't answer. I just held up the ring box. Her cereal bowl lowered slowly. Oh my God. Inside her apartment, I finally spoke. He didn't cheat. Not exactly. But he announced that he did. To everyone. For attention. Mia stared at me speechless. Then she whispered, Lisa, that's not a joke. That's psychological warfare. For the first time, I felt something break. Relief, pain, truth, everything at once. I stayed at Mia's place, slept in her guest room, woke up with a headache from holding in emotions for too long. Ethan didn't text. Not that night, not the next morning, not until noon when I finally sent him a message. I'm ending the engagement. I need space and time to think. Please don't contact me. He replied instantly. Lisa, you're seriously ending things over one joke. You're so sensitive. You need to grow up. I stared at his message, feeling nothing but emptiness. Then he sent another, give me the ring back. It's mine. I typed back, a ring given during a proposal is a conditional gift. The condition our engagement is over. The ring comes back to me. His reply was instant furious. You're a thief. I blocked him. But that didn't stop him. Not even close. 2 hours later, Mia came running into the guest room holding her phone. Lisa, you need to see this. I took her phone. My stomach dropped. Ethan had posted on Facebook, my fiancé dumped me and stole my engagement ring because she can't take a joke. Imagine losing a relationship over a sense of humor. Hundreds of likes, comments pouring in, his friends hyping him up, calling me insecure, controlling, emotionally unstable. I felt sick, humiliated, exposed. Mia put a hand on my shoulder. We're not done. He wants a performance, she said quietly. He has no idea what's coming. Because what Ethan didn't realize was this. Social media lies crumble fast. Truth doesn't. And there were people in his life, more than he knew, who were already on my side. Ethan's Facebook posts spread faster than I expected. Mutual friends I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly messaged me with some version of, what happened? Or, did you seriously take the ring? I didn't reply to any of them. If I learned anything from the campfire incident, it was this. Ethan wanted an audience. He thrived in public chaos. He wanted attention more than he wanted the truth. But then the phone calls started. First, his mom. Her voice was soft, almost rehearsed. Lisa, sweetheart, Ethan told us you overreacted. He said he made a silly joke and you threw the entire engagement away. A joke, I repeated. He accused himself of cheating. He said it was a misunderstanding, she whispered, like she didn't fully believe her own excuse. Then she added, I'm sure things can be fixed. It would mean a lot to the family if you two could talk things through. I nearly laughed. Fixed. There's no fixing someone who enjoys humiliating you. Then his father called. No softness, no hesitation. Lisa, he said bluntly, you need to return the ring. It's Ethan's property. No, I cut in. It isn't. You're being unreasonable over something that was clearly a joke. Was it a joke when he enjoyed every moment of watching us panic, I asked? Was it a joke when he mocked me for hours afterward? There was a long silence. He finally said, you're overreacting, and hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time after that, realizing how deeply Ethan's family enabled him, how often they brushed off his behavior, how easily they hid behind the word joke to excuse anything he did. But the worst calls came from mutual friends. A girl from his gym. "Hey, Lisa, I saw Ethan's post. That really sucks. But, are you okay? People are saying some stuff." A coworker of his. "Look, I'm not taking sides, but Ethan's been telling everyone you're controlling and jealous." Then a guy we both knew from college said something that made me freeze. "Lisa, he's been talking about how you don't let him talk to girls. Did something happen?" He made it sound like the breakup is your fault. My fault. Controlling. Jealous. Ethan was rewriting reality one post, one message, one conversation at a time. I felt like I was drowning in lies. But then a message popped up that made my blood run cold. From Jenna Rowe, his ex-girlfriend. I hadn't spoken to her in years. Ethan always described her as dramatic, clingy, obsessed. His words, not mine. But now she had something to say. Jenna. "Hey, Lisa. I heard about the engagement ending. I'm not trying to stir anything up, but I think you deserve to know something." My hands tightened around my phone. Jenna Ethan has been messaging me on and off for months. My heart dropped. Cold. Heavy. Like the world tilted on its axis. Me, what do you mean messaging? Jenna flirting. Complimenting me. Saying he misses how easy things were. Saying you're emotional and he feels trapped. I didn't respond after the first few times, but he didn't stop. I sat down slowly, my knees too weak to hold me. He had been talking to his ex, flirting with her, behind my back. My throat tightened as I typed back. "Me, do you have screenshots?" Her reply came instantly. "Jenna, yes, I'm sending them." Seconds later, they appeared. Dozens of messages, months long, his words loud and damning. "Ethan, Lisa overreacts to everything. Sometimes I feel like I made a mistake. You're the one who actually understood me. I miss how you made me feel wanted. You look amazing in your new photos. If Lisa and I weren't so deep into the wedding stuff, I still think about us sometimes." I felt sick, physically sick. Every line felt like a needle threading through my chest. I whispered, "He lied to no one. He lied to me about everything." Mia came into the room, saw my face, and snatched the phone. She read the messages, her eyes widening. "Oh my God, Lisa, this is worse than I thought." I couldn't speak. My body felt too small, too tight, too full of betrayal to form words. Then another message from Jenna. "Jenna, he told me he wasn't sure he'd say yes to your proposal, and after he posted about the ring, he messaged me again saying you were crazy." I stared at the phone, stunned hollow. Ethan had been planning an escape route, keeping his ex as emotional insurance, keeping the world convinced I was the unstable one. And that campfire joke, it wasn't a joke. It was a test. He wanted to see how far he could go without consequences. He wanted to see if humiliation would make me cling harder. He wanted a reaction he could twist into sympathy for himself. And he got it. Suddenly, Mia's voice cut into my spiraling thoughts. "You need to confront him." I shook my head. "No, I need to destroy the version of the story he's telling everyone. Because Ethan didn't just hurt me. He rewrote me as the villain in his narrative. But what he didn't expect, not in a million years, was that the truth wasn't on his side. And the next move, it wasn't going to be his. I didn't confront Ethan right away. I didn't scream or march to his apartment or demand explanations he would only twist into excuses. Instead, I waited. I let the truth settle in my bones. I let the shock harden into clarity. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at Mia's apartment. He didn't knock. He pounded on the door like a cop with a warrant. Mia peeked through the peephole, then shot me a look. "It's him." My stomach tightened, but I nodded. "Let him in." Ethan stormed into the living room the moment the door opened. He looked frantic, hair messy, shirt wrinkled, breathing uneven. But behind the panic was something else. Anger. How dare I disrupt his perfect narrative? "Lisa," he snapped, "this is insane. I look like a fool because of you." Because of me. Not because of his lies or his humiliation or his cheating-adjacent behavior. Because of me. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "You have people thinking I'm some kind of monster, all because you're too sensitive to handle a joke." My voice was calm, steady. "Ethan, you didn't joke. You lied. You humiliated me. You disrespected the people I love, and you've been messaging your ex for months." His pacing stopped. Slowly, he turned to me. "What?" I didn't blink. "I know everything." Jenna showed me the screenshots. His face drained of color. "I didn't. Those weren't Lisa. You're misunderstanding." I held up Mia's iPad where the screenshots were open in a neat column. His words in black and white. The lines that haunted me. "Sometimes I think I made a mistake. Lisa is suffocating me. I miss what we had. If we hadn't already planned so much." Ethan swallowed hard, his jaw clenching. Those were harmless. Just stupid texts." "Stupid." My voice shook. You were planning a wedding with me and telling another woman you missed being with her. He opened his mouth, then closed it, searching for an angle, any angle to spin this. But for once he found none. So he switched tactics. Lisa, he said softly, stepping closer. You know I love you. I was confused, scared. You were moving too fast, and Jenna was just familiar. None of it meant anything. Then why did you keep messaging her, I asked, even after I proposed? He hesitated only half a second. It was enough. I gently set the iPad down and pulled the velvet ring box from my pocket. His eyes followed it like prey tracking movement. You said I stole the ring, I whispered. But legally, it's a conditional gift. I proposed to you. The condition was our engagement. That condition is broken.
Ethan stared at the box chest rising and falling quickly.
Lisa, don't do this. I opened the lid. The band gleamed in the light, simple, elegant, chosen with love he never deserved. You weren't the man I thought you were, I said. Not even close. His face twisted, not in sadness, not in regret. In frustration, in anger at losing control of the narrative. Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy now, he snapped. You've turned people against me. No, Ethan, I said quietly. You did that to yourself. He glared, breath-shaking, hands clenched. Fine, he said coldly. Throw away 3 years. But don't come running back when you realize you overreacted. Mia stepped forward. Get out. He ignored her eyes, still burning into mine. But I didn't budge, didn't flinch, didn't soften. Ethan took one last look at the ring, at me, at the woman who no longer fit the story he wanted to tell. Then he walked out. The door slammed so hard the frame rattled. Mia exhaled in disbelief. Holy hell! I sank onto the couch. For the first time since the campfire, I let myself feel it all. Grief, betrayal, anger, relief. So much relief it almost brought me to my knees. That night I blocked Ethan on everything. Phone, email, social media, every door closed. But the story wasn't finished. The next morning while I was drinking coffee on Mia's balcony, I got a message from an unknown number. Unknown, you don't know me, but you're not the first. My chest tightened. Me, who is this? Unknown. I dated Ethan years ago. We broke up because he did the same thing to me. The public humiliation, the jokes, the flirting with his ex, the lies. I saw his posts about you, and I recognized everything. A second message came in, unknown. You didn't lose anything, Lisa. You escaped. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not crying, not shaking, just breathing. Because the truth finally settled in. I thought I had lost the future I wanted. But the reality was simpler. I had walked away from a man who would have destroyed me piece by piece, joke by joke, lie by lie. And I didn't just survive him. I saved myself. So no, I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the dramatic one. I wasn't the unstable one. I was the one who finally chose me.